Hi, I'm Bonnie McIntyre.
I'm Margaret Ozaki.
And I'm Ted Reedy with the Loveland Opera Theater's production of The Mikado. And you're watching In Focus.
In Focus.
In Focus.
Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Hi, I'm Eden Lane. Thanks for joining us on In Focus. This week we're up in Loveland to visit Loveland Opera Theatre during rehearsal for their brand new production of The Mikado. We'll have a chance to meet some of the artists that are starring in this production and learn about how the company even got founded 9 years ago, right here in Loveland. We were invited to step in during rehearsal at the First Baptist Church of Loveland.
Thy heart and mind, give me my place, O full of blind, for rational ways. Thy heart and mind, give me my place. This is the purpose place, O full of blind, O rational ways.
We begin learning about Loveland Opera Theatre from the founder, executive, and artistic director, Dr. Juliana Bishop Hoke, and about this production of The Mikado by stage director, Tim Kennedy. They sat down with us after a long, snowy day of rehearsal. Yay! What fun to come up here to Loveland to sort of discover, for the first time for us, and probably for some of our viewers, Loveland Opera Theatre. Thanks for letting us know and inviting us up to see you before you even open The Mikado.
Thank you for being here.
Now, how did the Loveland Opera Theatre Company even begin, and how long ago was that?
I founded it 9 years ago with $500 and a dream, basically. And little did I know that all of my education, 16 years of college, was preparing me for this moment to start this company.
In what way?
Well, in my doctoral degree from UNC, I was studying voice performance and pedagogy, but also doing a secondary in opera directing. And so I had sung for many years professionally, based out of Manhattan, New York City, and came back to Colorado to start this doctorate. And I had always been on the other side of the footlights, being a performer. And so this education, this degree, and these years of being assistant stage director and so on, learning technical theater, was preparing me for this next step in my life.
You completed your education here in Colorado. Are you from Colorado?
Originally from Wheat Ridge.
From Wheat Ridge.
Yes.
So you were able to take all of that experience and create something new for yourself to share with others right here where you grew up in a sense.
Exactly, yes.
Well, how did you become connected to, is this the first time you're working with Loveland Opera Theatre?
No, this is actually my third production directing for Loveland Opera Theatre. And 3 years ago for HMS Pinafore, actually Juliana was talking to their lighting designer, Peter Muller, who's also conducting The Mikado this season. And he suggested to her my name because I had directed a show that he had designed. And
a musical theater show.
Yes, correct. And they were looking for someone because the director they had for HMS Pinafore had had a medical emergency and had to drop out. And so it was a bit of a sad situation, but it was a wonderful experience because I got to be attached to this company, and it's been a great relationship ever since.
And how long ago was that?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
So just about the same length of time that some of the artists in this production joined Loveland Opera Theatre.
Yes.
One of the things that really made me determined to come here and not just learn more about the company for myself, but to share it with our viewers, is that part of your mission says that you cast with Colorado artists.
Only, yes.
Tell me about that.
I think it's really important for the singers in Colorado to have more venues in which to perform. And there are so many...
And not only be in the ensemble.
That's right. And there's so many young artists that are emerging from the universities here that are wonderful singers, and they want to stay here, but they have nowhere to sing. And so I decided to found Loveland Opera Theatre for the purpose of giving young artists opportunities to perform and learn and grow. And I always am looking for a stage director that is interested in educating and teaching, and that's what Tim does so well. He really nurtures the young artists, and they grow tremendously in these shows because of him.
So you call it LOT, Loveland
LOT,
Opera.
that's
So
right.
is it a nonprofit
It
organization?
is nonprofit,
So-
501c3.
You have a board of directors as well then?
We do.
How do you in a town the size of Loveland find enough people to help you sustain and run an organization like an opera company?
It's a constant struggle. We're working constantly to try to get more corporate funding, more corporate sponsors. We have some very generous donors that really believe in this company and believe in the projects that we do. They've been very wonderful in contributing, and it's sort of like the whole community joins together to celebrate this. So we have some incredible support from not only from Loveland but from Fort Collins and Greeley, all up and down the Front Range, really.
Now, in an opera company, we don't often hear the job title that you have. We often hear general director, but that's not your job title. Do you have a general director, or do you serve that function?
Yeah, I guess I do wear 3 hats, don't I? I'm the executive
more
and
hats than that.
artistic director and the general director, and yes,
Marketing and development as well.
everything.
Like many other arts organizations in Colorado.
Right, exactly.
Your title for this is stage director.
Yes.
Now, those of us who are familiar with opera understand that distinction, but in case someone doesn't, tell me what that means in an opera production,
Sure.
as opposed to seeing the Mikado done as a musical theater company.
Sure. Well, actually, this company runs a little bit more like a musical theater company from how we do auditions. A lot of times in an opera company, the stage director doesn't come in until after the opera's already cast.
So you don't get to pick the cast in a normal, traditional setup.
That is correct. But Juliana very much believes in the training portion of this, and so she wants me to be involved and see the performers in their audition as well, and help in the casting process, which also helps me to know what I'm working with when I walk into the first rehearsal. And so I'm very lucky that I have a part in the casting of the show, and she and I work together to cast all of our productions for the main stage.
Does the musical director participate in that casting process also?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Correct.
Which is normally the head of the production in a traditional opera company.
That is correct. And because of the way we work, the stage director and the music director work very closely together,
Yes.
both for the casting of the show with Juliana, but also throughout the entire production in our goals of what we're looking for from the singers and how we can continue to help them grow as artists, but also just our goals for the production itself. And we spend a lot of time, what I love the most about this company, we spend a lot of time in production meetings with all of the artists involved in the production, the set designers, the costume designers, and we all come together and develop a production from a group perspective instead of just from my one perspective, which oftentimes, or the general director's perspective, which is how it's often done in opera as well.
That must make it a little bit more challenging logistically to try to get things done with that many people, but it probably serves that educational part of your mission more so that everyone participating knows more about
Yes.
how this is put together.
Yes, and we're creating it together, and it's just really fun to see it come to life.
Now, in your rehearsal, did I see the musical director hand off rehearsal to someone else? And is that part of the education that's happening here?
Yes, it is. So we have our conductor, who is Peter Muller, and our assistant conductor, who is Nicholas Gilmore.
And an opera company normally would have that, an assistant, but it seemed as though there was more going on than just handing off to someone else to take over rehearsal so he could go do something else.
Well, Nicholas will actually be conducting 2 of our performances. We have 8 performances of the Mikado. 6 are full main stage productions, and 2 are a shortened version for children, Mikado for Kids, and Nicholas will be conducting those.
And Nicholas is a student locally. He's a doctoral student at one of the local universities.
So you have a student that's conducting, and you're also doing one for families and children, a couple
correct.
performances.
Yes.
Clearly, that's part of the education that the company is driven to do here in Loveland. What is different about the production, aside from it just being abbreviated?
Well, it's 90 minutes. It's scenes from the opera, and it's with piano.
So without the orchestra.
Without the orchestra, but Tim will be narrating the Mikado for kids. So it's our educational outreach to the community and to the children of this area.
But they'll still get all the songs that most people might recognize from the Mikado.
Yeah, our goal is to excite them with the pieces that a lot of people know, but also to teach them some of the basics of what they're seeing. So we teach them about what is a soprano and why is the soprano usually the lead, and the tenor usually the love interest of the soprano and things like that. We teach them about the sets. They get to see some of the set changes that happen with the curtain open so that they get to really learn about the production itself. And then afterwards we do a question and answer session with the entire production crew and the cast so that the students get to learn them and really get to know them and learn about what they do.
You call that the Mikado that you're presenting for children, but it sounds like it's actually for anyone who just wants to learn more about
opera.
The opera.
Yes.
A number of the lot board members came to the Mikado for Kids because they wanted to see what it was. We did it last year for La Boheme, and a number of them said they actually were glad they came because they learned a lot more about the opera by coming to that, and then they appreciated the performance on the evening performances much more because of it.
Because of what you're choosing to present, you don't have to know a lot about opera to be able to access this production and enjoy it as a performance.
Absolutely.
It's Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yes. And we're making it contemporary. So,
In what way?
well, would you like to tell him, Tim?
Sure. I've rewritten 2 of the songs that have contemporary lyrics. So we're singing about Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus in the production. So very contemporary people that people will recognize. But also, I'm taking the themes that Gilbert and Sullivan were commenting on because really the themes of this opera are
Political.
political. Yes, it's all political.
Yes.
It's about politicians who don't know what they're doing. It's about laws that are outdated, but people grasp onto them and won't let them go. And we don't have any of that in our country today, of course. You know? So what I've done is try to update some of the lyrics so that the audience can really access and make those connections that what they were speaking against, even in 1885, still speaks to issues that we deal with socially and politically today.
And of course, even though this takes place in a fictitious town in Japan, it's not Japanese culture. It's not real Japanese culture. This is a very British idea, a Victorian idea of what Japanese culture was like. Exactly. But there were also some very controversial lyrics and lines in the book that are often changed to accommodate the sensitivities of modern audiences. So the fact that you're making these little tweaks is not unheard of with the Mikado.
No, and even Gilbert and Sullivan, actually, when they revived their pieces, they would rewrite them to bring in current day issues or politicians they were trying to rail against.
Because it's meant to be popular entertainment, the way they've written these
Exactly.
pieces.
And so they wouldn't have a problem. That's why it's become common for people to rewrite a lot of their things.
Now, as you cast this production of the Mikado, clearly it's all Colorado artists that are singing. What was it that you were looking for in the cast, and how did you find them? Because who knew we had this many opera singers in Colorado?
Well, we're very lucky because Juliana does a lot of work with the local universities to let them know about our productions, and so we do get some of the local students who come and audition. But there's actually a large number of professional singers in this area who just don't get seen very often, and most of the time they go to the musical theater genres to just have a chance to perform in the theaters around this area.
Or if they're in an ensemble and not necessarily getting a chance to really try on some of the...
So, but for me, I'm a director that comes from both opera and theater, and what's important to me is that in the end we tell the story in a way that the audience can connect to it. And so what's important for me is to cast people that not only can sing, but can connect to what they're singing to. So we actually do a callback process, which is actually becoming more common in opera than you would think, but it is not a common thing in the past. But we do that because I want to give them directions, see how they take it, and then give them feedback on what they're doing and see how they can bring the character alive on stage in a way that might serve our production well. So a lot of the casting is a large part of that, of really getting the characters alive in the audition process so I can see how they're going to be performing it when we get in front of an audience.
Much more like the way a musical theater production would work. You have 2 casts.
We do.
2 casts. Again, it's a sizable number of artists that you're able to pull together. I overheard that one cast was called Orange. Could the other cast possibly be called Blue?
Absolutely. Yes.
We work really hard to make sure that neither of the casts seem one better than the other, and so we look for ways to call them. And of course, since we're having such a great Bronco year, we thought orange and blue worked really well.
That shows that even though it's an opera company, you still are Coloradans first and foremost.
completely to the core.
Tell me, what is the home that you have for these performances at this beautiful little jewel box here? How did that relationship begin between Loveland Opera Theatre and the Rialto Theatre?
Well, actually, the former general manager of the Rialto is a high school friend of mine from Wheat Ridge High School. So I really loved the Rialto. I love the space. It's very intimate. It's a historic landmark. It seats 430 people. So it's a small house. It's also a very small pit, which is problematic.
So the orchestra is going to be playing
right. But I love the venue. It reminds me of a German opera house, of the opera houses in Europe, and how small and intimate it is, easy for young singers to sing in, and so it's just a gorgeous place.
Because
and
it wouldn't be mic'd.
No. And so that's why it evolved. I just established a relationship with Jan Sawyer, who was, rekindled our friendship and got going with Rialto, and we've been there ever since.
I'm awfully glad that you reached out to us, and some of your artists reached out to us to come up and take a look at Loveland Opera Theatre, the company with the opera with heart, right here in our own backyard. And I'm so delighted that we're going to have a chance to come and see the Mikado here. And I really appreciate you letting us sneak in for rehearsal today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this.
Before we meet some of the cast, we have another brief look at the end of their rehearsal.
Here's a pretty mess, in a month or less. I'm sad without a wedding, let the bitter tears I'm shedding with my stress. Here's a pretty mess. What if what you said is true? I cannot marry you. It's a pretty state of things. Here's a pretty how do you do?
Now that we've learned a little bit about how Loveland Opera Theatre got its start and how this production of the Mikado came to be, we'll have a chance to meet some of the artists that are starring in this production at Loveland Opera Theatre. Well, what a treat to come all the way up to Loveland to join you for rehearsal for the Mikado. That was really a lot of fun to watch you work. Thanks for letting us sneak in there and get a peek before we start. How did you all get involved with this opera company in Loveland?
My voice teacher, Tim Kennedy, is directing this production, and he suggested that I might want to come sing for auditions. Kadisha is a role normally for a mezzo-soprano, and I'm not.
And you are not.
I'm not a mezzo-soprano. So it wasn't on my radar, but she's so much fun. She's one of these great roles where you come in and you recap, and you leave. And you're only
like a mezzo.
Yes, like a mezzo. You're only on for little chunks. I kind of compare her to Domina in Forum. You come on, you wreak havoc, you leave, and you get great roles and people remember you, but you don't have to do much singing. So you don't have to be there the whole opera.
How are you finding that changing your range for this production?
It's not that low. I joke women past a certain age don't get to sing soprano anymore. And I'm
You're
past
not
a certain So I spend a lot of time singing really low altos in music theater. So Kadisha is a lot higher than a lot of things I've sung lately.
Oh.
Yeah. It's in a nice meaty part of my range, and I've added some high notes that the conductor and the director haven't objected to yet. So I'm gonna leave that in there.
How about for you? How did you find this company?
Well, I first auditioned for Loveland Opera Theatre about 4 years ago when I moved back to Colorado, and met Juliana at that audition, and she's just been so good to me since then, doing all sorts of work, events for the company, and I think this is my 4th production.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with.
What was your first one? Do you remember?
The first one that I did on stage was with Ted. It was called A Night at the Opera, and it was an operetta medley of Victor Herbert tunes with a double bill of the Marx Brothers movie.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
I'm sad I missed that one. How about for you, Ted? How did you get involved with Loveland Opera Theatre?
Well, I've known Juliana for a few years now, and as a fellow voice teacher. And when I moved back from BYU, I did my master's there, and then
In voice?
In voice, yeah. And I came here, and then I heard about it was the gala, the 5-star gala that Meg and I were in. I guess that was 3-4 years back or something like that. And that's kind of how I got started with Loveland Opera Theatre. And then I'd heard from Juliana that they were looking for some roles for Mikado, and so I was like, that sounds like fun. I got time.
Well, I know you live in the Denver metro area. Do you live up here or near here, either of you?
I live in Longmont.
You live in Longmont, so splits the distance a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
How about
I live
you?
in downtown Denver. Yeah.
So it must be something that really motivates you to make that journey, not just up for the performances, but for the kinds of rehearsals that you'll need, for the amount of weeks. What is it about getting a chance to perform the Mikado in Loveland that motivates you to make that investment?
Opera gets in your blood. You can leave it for a little bit, but I think you always come back to it. It's such challenging and such rewarding singing at the same time. I must have more of that. It's like you just want to do it. And so when you get an opportunity to sing, these are all great roles. We all have fantastic, fun roles with beautiful arias and wonderful moments that just enrich your life as a singer and make your blood boil a little bit, make you excited to do it. So it's worth the drive, absolutely.
So does this feel more like an opera to you than a musical theater piece? Because it's that operetta sort of semi-classical kind of music?
I think it's slightly on the opera side for me, yeah. I really enjoy it that way, actually. I agree with you. It's just one of those things, opera itself, that just has a feel about it that's so much fun, and you can't experience it in any other style, I think.
How about for you?
For me, I find it more a theater role.
Because there's more book for you.
Yeah, the soprano role is not the star of the show in this show. It's actually the tenor, and he gets the
really
nice big
unusual.
fat aria. Yes. So, and mostly.
And tenors hate that, don't they? When they
I know. Ted keeps twisting my arm. Why don't you just get up there and sing my aria? But the costume change would be horrible.
So we're seeing this produced, even though it's on that sort of bleeding edge of musical theater and opera, we're seeing it with a bent more toward the opera side. Is that correct with this production?
I don't know that you can say it's more towards the opera side. True operophiles would definitely categorize it as operetta, and because we have spoken lines, it takes it a little bit out of the true. But you cannot sing this production without that classical training to really get you through the whole show. I don't know. It's a particular sound that the music lends itself to. Is that bigger, more lyric, more classic sound?
Placement is different. Just
the
even
audience
the ensemble is going to sound different.
It's just what the audience associates,
singers.
I think, with that operatic sound. Yeah.
And the orchestra and the orchestration.
You're singing with an orchestra?
Yes,
not
live orchestra. Isn't that fantastic this day and age?
Wow.
Yeah.
For such a what we perceive as a small company in a small town in Colorado, that's really impressive. That this size of company that you have, and you're also singing with live musicians. Now that must be another part of what excites you as artists, to be able to come all the way up, well, not all the way up here for you, but to do that. So since this is your first time with Loveland Opera Theatre, I'll ask the two of you, what has been the environment among the artists that you work with over these past 4 or 5 years with Loveland Opera Theatre? What is that like for you?
Well, what I really enjoy about this company is that they really try to hire a range of different performers. Maybe someone who has never had an opportunity to perform in an opera before, or perhaps even in a show before, and some very seasoned performers as well. And I find it equally instructive to learn from everybody in the situation. And there's something wonderful about seeing someone experiencing the performance of an opera for the first time.
Not just in the audience,
Yes,
but as part of the company.
The company, yeah.
That's really great. What is the experience like for you as an artist joining a company like this after?
Well, I think it's a lot of fun, and I think there's a really professional intercourse with people that I think there's a lot of good ideas and a lot of really professional people that have come from a different walks of music theater or opera or just acting. And I see a lot of those kinds of things come together to make this opera. And that's actually pretty exciting because I think even for the kids, the younger kids, that we have some high school kids that are in the show. And for them, I remember I was in Mikado when I was young, and it changed my life to be in an opera, to go, oh, cool, that's really fun, and got to see and experience and really work with those other people. And that kind of started the drive for me.
It's almost a full circle moment for you, passing it back to those high school students the way someone did for you.
It's true.
It's a wonderful chance to come and see the Mikado, and I hear that this theater is really kind of a gem too, that you're performing in the Rialto here in Loveland. I can't wait to come back and see your performance. Thanks for letting us snag you after a long day of rehearsal. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
There are only 2 weekends to catch the performance of The Mikado by Loveland Opera Theatre at the Rialto in Loveland, Colorado. You can find all the details on their webpage, lovelandopera.org.
Ignite Theater is producing a new musical, See What I Wanna See, at the Aurora Fox Arts Center. Dealing with lust, greed, murder, faith, and redemption, this musical is in rehearsal now. Directed by Robert Michael Sanders, with music direction by Heather Hall. The 2 acts tell distinctly separate stories, but the music pulls them together. Ignite Theater's production of See What I Wanna See runs through March 9th. Details are available at ignitetheater.com. Local Theater Company is hosting a special event on February 14th, Dance Baby Dance, in observance of V-Day and 1 Billion Rising for Justice. And next week we'll bring you my exclusive interview with playwright Eve Ensler during her recent appearance for Local Theater.
Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.